This is just about the last straw. Over the course of this podcast, I've been trapped in Antarctic blizzards, fallen down a crevasse, been lost at sea, swallowed by a whale, marooned on a desert island, arrested, thrown in prison, and trapped inside the prison sewage tank in a botched escape attempt. Okay, so the last one was probably my fault, but now the tank is on the move, hooked up to a truck headed goodness knows where. Look, I'm not afraid to say it. This stinks. Worst road trip ever.
What a predicament!
Thank you for downloading What a Predicament, a podcast that peers into the predicaments of the modern day and age. My little predicament here in this waste receptacle has made me a little more sympathetic to the plights faced by others. So each week, I, Alex, try and shoulder the burden of others and take on their predicaments. Kinda like Jesus, except actually white and blue-eyed. And this week, in Christ-like fashion, I try and help out a group of people with an ordeal that, sadly, doesn't get much press these days. That is, how exactly do you get a film into the Cannes Film Festival? Plenty of others have managed to do it. The prestigious festival has been running since 1946. The Cannes Film Festival is held annually in, believe it or not, Cannes, France, a city on the French Riviera with a population just shy of 74,000. That number swells once a year in May with people gathering to celebrate films from around the globe. Where else? The most famous prize at the festival is, of course, the Palme d'Or for Best Film, but the Palme d'Or is actually one of many trophies awarded by the juries of Cannes. Others include the Prix de la Mise en Scène for Best Director, which has been won by talents such as Joel Cohen, Paul Thomas Anderson, Nicholas Winding Refn, and Ingmar Bergman. Another hotly contested prize, the top dog of all awards you might say, is the Palme Dog for Best Performance by a Canine or group of canines live or animated during the festival. The award consists of a leather dog collar with embossed letters reading Palme Dog. And that award has been awarded to such good boys as Moses in Lars von Trier's Dogville, which sounds a lot more like a family-friendly Pixar movie than it is. Trust me. Other dogs who have taken out the top prize are the Black Poodle in Inglourious Bastards and Doug in Up. Much of the film industry travels to Cannes each year for reasons that are disappointingly undog-related. The film market was founded in 1959 as a sort of watering hole to wet the whistles of sellers and buyers of the film industry, and is now known as the world's largest movie marketplace. An American film producer is quoted to have told NoFilmSchool.com that 80% of the business in the film industry is done at Cannes in that very market, though whether that 80% was an estimation or an exaggeration is probably a question best left for a researcher far more qualified than myself. Clearly, I don't know much more about Cannes than the casual weekend Wikipedia enthusiast, so I sought out some homegrown, hotshot Hollywood types who have recently returned from the film festival to get the inside goss of what really goes on behind those invite-only doors. Filmmaking couple Kat Glass and Luke Thornborough went to Cannes this year with their short film Numb. Little did they know that after rubbing shoulders with industry insiders at one of the biggest events in the film festival calendar, they would land the opportunity to feature in an episode of What a Predicament. First of all, could you talk about your film Numb, how that came together and what your respective roles were in the film?
Yeah, sure. So Numb was my script to start with. I wrote it just as a sort of practice because I started writing for theatre a number of years ago, and so this was my first screenplay. And I sent it to Luke and was like, is this right? Is this the right format for screen? And he was like, yes, it is right. I love it. I want to make it. And it sort of just springboarded from there. And I was like, only if I can be the lead actor.
Yeah, it was interesting, actually. It was one of those, like, we were doing a writing course at the time, and Kat just sent me through this script. And a lot of sort of, like, I get quite critical when it comes to, like, you know, stuff that I want to produce and stuff that I want to invest my time in. So I kind of remove any sort of personal attachments I have to a script or anything like that. But there was something about it that just really sang to me. It's the sort of the idea of stepping into that moment and really examining that moment when there's such a big grief that it really consumes your entire world, that all sound is lost, and just to sort of really examine that moment of sort of high tension was really good, and the way Kat executed it was really original and really interesting to me. So yeah, I picked it up straight away.
When you first picked up the script, did you think it had Can written all over it, or how did that come about?
In many ways, yes. I think it was more we were kind of just making it for ourselves.
Yeah. I think it was very much a passion project, and we could both just see it so well in our heads, and both was quite attached to the format and exploration of character. And it's really Luke that thought of even entering it in Can. I personally wouldn't have thought to, but he had been 2 years prior, and so said, well, why not give it a go?
Yeah, I think it was the... I think if there's anything that sort of really called to it for sort of a festival release was the fact that it was... it's very experimental. The way it's sort of set out, and it's evident in the script, is that the entire thing is sort of built on this mixing of diegetic sound as music. So when our lead character, Anna, goes through this moment of grief, all sound sort of drops away, and the music design lent itself to this really quite interesting, experimental style of film.
Yeah, industrial sort of soundscape, which was sort of reflective of the characters' inner turmoil, which is something you can afford to do with a short film, kind of get really artsy on it.
Yeah, and stuff that festival goers really enjoy. And so entering it into Cannes Film Festival felt like a must, really. Like, it's like, well, no, not. Let's give it a go.
What's that expression about it sound is 60% of a film or something like that? Have you...
Yeah, I've come across that, and I'm a huge fan of sound. That sounds like a weird comment, but I really love sound design in film, and so that was something I was really interested in integrating, not just into the final product, but into the script itself. And I'd say with Numb, sound is actually 70%, if not more, of the film.
Yeah,
it's a big part of the podcast I do as well. It's sort of one of the key things I try and nail down.
As the sound, what stands to reason.
So could you talk about the application process? How do you start? Where do you start to get a film recognised to be in Cannes?
To get a film into Cannes Film Festival has actually become, over the last 5 years, really accessible. And I'm constantly telling people this, because I think the festival itself is such a great learning experience. I know the first time I went over, it was a really huge experience, and it taught me a lot to go over, and I'll go into that a little bit later, I'm sure. But to actually enter it in, you just have to submit it online, and it's just it's a mental step. It's like, oh, am I ready? Am I ready to put this out there? But as soon as you feel that you are ready, then put it out there, because the actual application process is literally they watch your film, and if they like it, they will put it in as part of the festival program and part of the short film corner. It has to be of a cinematic quality. It has to be able to be screened at the festival. But they are so supportive of young creatives over there. They have a real push to develop young creative people entering into the film market, that if they see that you have a talent and a drive, they will pick you up and they will help you out.
For sure. I think every young filmmaker should do it with their first few films, just to actually start navigating the festival process. It's Cannes has set itself up as not just the biggest and best, but also the gateway to the rest of film festival distribution. It's an amazing experience, and yeah, it's so accessible to actually send it in, and the likelihood of getting in it is pretty high. If you are at the stage where you're making the stuff, you're probably ready.
When you get to Cannes, is it a big party town? People talk about with the Olympics going on that it just turns into a
yes,
wild. Is it like that? I imagine it goes. The population of the town must explode for those.
It's pretty much a town set around this film festival. The waterfront is dominated by the place where Cannes Film Festival happens, and that's as a permanent structure, because it's such an established festival, and most of the business in the area is set around this month of the year, where there's parties and bars and hotels open.
It feels like a very large, very expensive mall. The city streets, certainly around the Palais, it feels that way. Snoop Dogg was putting on a lot of parties. We got invited,
but we couldn't find the address.
So we missed out on Snoop Dogg, which is a pity.
That was okay.
I like to think he's a like indie film buff or something. He's really into these experimental shorts.
When someone told me to come along, I was like, why is he even here?
Yeah. I sent him an apology letter.
Personally,
I hope he appreciates it. I hope he doesn't hold it against us.
So is it open to the public, or is it sort of more of an industry event where it's reviewers and tradespeople?
Yes, definitely business.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's like in an aspect of going in, if you're not part of the film market, so there's two parts of Cannes Film Festival. There's the festival proper, where you're the program and everything like that, of which the Short Film Corner is a part of. But then there's also the film market, where a majority of the people are. So you've got the Palais, which has sort of got all the cinemas on the top, and then underneath are two levels of market, which I think I was reading somewhere, it's close to $30 billion of trade goes through. Like, it's a stupid amount of money goes through that market over a 2-week period. I might be exaggerating. It might be 3 billion. 3 billion sounds better. I'm known to make up numbers.
He is. He's infamous for it.
But either way, it's a huge amount of money goes through there. Very few people are actually involved in seeing the films. The films feel very superfluous to the trading
I think
of films.
they're the front end. They're the glitzy front end, where they have the red carpet outside and the paparazzi, and the whole thing's all carded. You have your swipe card for the whole thing. You have to get checked at the door. It's very much a closed off event.
So to be a part of the film market is quite costly, and you have to have a business that you're representing. So there's that side of it, and the film side of it, you can only get along if you're invited. So we had 2 invitations for the fact that we were in the festival proper. So it's not open to the public. It's only by invitation only. But that invitation does get you access to the premieres and to the market itself, which was a wonderful way to see both sides of the film industry.
Definitely. And I think it's probably the only place you can see both sides of the industry up close and personal. Film is so stuck in the 1960s. It's so shut off and secretive. So much of the information that you need to operate as a filmmaker, or I feel as a producer, I can't find it online.
It's really not there. And like, again, you just don't know what to expect from Cannes Film Festival.
No.
You've got this invitation, this golden ticket, but there's no man at the door to show you around. Like,
No,
you just get there, and
you're not even really sure what to do. I think, like, okay, here are all these people. How do I fit into this when people are doing big trades on movie deals? What do I do here?
Yeah, am I supposed to go around and hawk my wares? Or am I supposed to just go, I've got a movie, like, and join the masses, sort of doing that? But you quickly learn, I guess, how to operate there, or at least you spend your time trying to work out how to operate there, and you come out with a better idea.
Which, as a young short filmmaker, I think is a very valid thing to learn, and go in and see it and watch by example, and sit at the cafes and bars next to people doing huge trades with Fox or Netflix, and just listen in.
Yeah, I mean, that's half of it, is like, you go to any cafe, you go to any bar, and there's people just doing pitches upon pitches, people with screenwriters looking for directors looking for producers looking for distributors at every stage of production. And each of them are pitching to the other. Well, I've got this movie, and it's like this, this, and this. And then the other person's like, I hate that idea. And he's like, okay, well, I've got this other movie, and it's like this, this, and this. And it's at every stage, and it's this real buzz of people doing this, like, all over the place. So you can kind of just sit in a cafe
And absorb
all day, just listening to the people who are the film industry doing
it.
The film industry.
Yeah.
What would you say you got out of going to the festival in terms of the lessons you learned being around the sort of industry heads?
Well, I mean, this was my first time going with my first film, and I was so fortunate that Luke had gone before, so I knew what to look for to learn. And I went to so many workshops and forums with all these amazing people in charge of the film industry giving their advice. And that's the thing that I took away, is actually as secret as it can be, it's actually a very encouraging industry, and going made it feel more accessible, with people saying, you know what, if you want to submit your script to Netflix, who are now funding 12 features a year, get it to your pitch to a good standard and send it in. You can. You don't have to wait 20 years until you've produced a million things on your own. Like, you can get in, which is what I learned, because I sort of thought that it was this inaccessible thing, and I'm a young gun trying it out for the first few times and thinking that it's impossible to get into. But really, the people I met there and talked to and listened to speak made it feel so doable.
I think that was my takeaway as well. Certainly the first time was that you go there and people really do have the time of day for you. The fact that, like, you're there is enough. And I think it's worth noting that in New Zealand, we make really good short films. Like, it's something that, you know, we go through university making short films. We make really good ones. So actually, the standard, once you're out of university and once you're making your first short film, the standard that you're producing, from what I've seen in the world, is really good. So it's worth definitely putting it out there, because we get a lot of respect as New Zealanders overseas. And but generally, overall, I found that people were really open to talking to us, really open to giving us advice, and really open to hearing what we have to say, as far as they're concerned. And to be honest, when I left, as far as I'm concerned, I'm a part of the film industry. Yeah. And I didn't realise until I went over there for the first time and learnt that. It was just like, oh, okay.
I'm not trying to be a filmmaker by the merit of making one. I am.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
already am.
There's nobody going to open the door. You literally just have to walk in. But you have to make the decision to walk in. Yeah. And I think, for me, certainly the first time going to Cannes was that decision, okay, I'm entering into this. I hope somebody will accept me. And then realising that, oh, because I'm making stuff,
they already accept
I'm
you.
already accepted, yeah.
And I think that's the thing about being an artist of any kind, is that everyone feels like a fraud. Everyone feels like a pretender, whether you're a writer, an actor, or a musician. You feel like someone has to give you permission to be that, like a proper artist. You're going to have to be given permission or receive a payment over a certain threshold or gain worldwide recognition or something. But you are the person that gives you the permission. There's no one holding the door shut. You're imagining the door. Just make the stuff and you're an artist.
And what I found from around the world, a lot of universities send their graduate students to Cannes. So whatever their graduate production was, they would submit it to the Short Film Corner, and those who got in would then go to Cannes. And so there's these big groups of young filmmakers going around as a result. But they're fresh out of uni is so very different from our fresh out of uni, because we saw a few friends of ours. Oh, no, now friends of ours, but we met a lot of New Zealanders over there. The first time I went, I think there were 2 other New Zealanders there, one of whom was involved in my film. So we went, so we met up, and that was great, and we were all sort of navigating the Short Film Corner together. But what was really exciting was when we went this time round, there were
about 16 of us.
About 16 New Zealanders over there with their short films, and that was awesome. That was so cool to see. And the quality of their short films are phenomenally good, because I think it's such a struggle in New Zealand to actually make something, to put it together, and, you know, the courage to send it overseas. And we have this mentality of overseas that you're just going to reject us because we're little old New Zealand.
They're better and they're bigger.
Yeah, you know, it's the classic thing. If you go away from New Zealand, get like 6 months work experience anywhere in London and come back, people are like, oh, you worked in London, you must be amazing now. And it's just, it's not true. We've got wonderful creative talent here in New Zealand. And it was really great to see them representing themselves overseas. And really kind of, I don't know, being kind of the cream of the crop at the Short Film Corner. It certainly felt that way. It felt really good. I felt very proud of being a New Zealander over there.
Even with your English accent.
Yeah, I know. Half my life. I've been here half my life.
As far as the actual films go as well, did you get to go see much, or was it all running round?
A lot of it was running round because we sort of made the decision. Your ticket does get you sort of points towards tickets to the premieres and things. And we made the decision that, you know, we'd flown 36 hours with stopovers to get there and raised all this money and got through the door. We may as well make the time learning stuff. We can watch films anytime. But we did go to one premiere. We went to the premiere of Gimme Danger, Iggy Pop's documentary on his music career, and he was there and the directors were there and we walked the red carpet. And
It was quite fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. Walking the red carpet with Iggy Pop. That was exciting.
Just me and Iggy.
Just me and Iggy.
just
High-fived
us.
him.
Yeah. No, we're sort of hurried in and the more important people posed for the paparazzi, but we'll pretend it was just as important as them.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we linked arms with him and skipped down. Well, as skipping as Iggy Pop can do.
Yeah, that's the story you'll tell your grandkids. When,
Yeah.
when I was at Cannes with Iggy Pop. we used to-
And Snoop Dogg.
And Snoop Dogg, yeah. Between the two of us. Three of us even.
I read that the festival was originally conceived in 1939. It was an alternative to the fascist-influenced Venice Film Festival. So from your experience, how true to that mission statement was it? Did you see any hints of radical authoritarian nationalism while you were there?
Yeah, all over the place. Iggy was the prime example.
No, I think would be the answer to that. No, I mean, not to, I mean, we'll be submitting to Venice. I really hope Mussolini's not there to stop us. But no, there was a heavy police presence, and it would be a lie to say that we didn't see, machine gun totting policemen walking around all over the show.
Well, we got almost run over while trying to figure out where we were meant to go to next by a very beautiful series of black cars carrying the cast and crew of The Nice Guys. So
Yeah.
we like to say we almost got run over by Ryan Gosling.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then moved
Pretty sure he
on.
threw something at me.
The Shane Black film.
And then moved on very quickly by a load of cops with machine guns.
Yeah, so as far as like fascism goes, I'm not entirely sure, but security was tight. Let's just say that, and it was like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
Is there a typical Cannes film that the judges love and eat up, like the way people might talk about an Academy Awards bait
For sure.
film?
I think that's sort of true of festival culture as a whole, is that it is different to a commercial film that you'd see at the summer blockbuster release. And if you're submitting, whether you're submitting a feature or a short to a film festival, there's a certain feel that you go for. European art house, slightly experimental, artistic format,
Beautifully shot.
beautifully shot,
Slow, considered.
contemplative.
Contemplative. I like that. Yeah, I don't know, it's a style of film that sits with you. I think that's sort of how I always feel. A lot of the time I watch sort of festival films, and I won't lie, like it's nice to do them in 2 sittings a lot of the time. Like nice is like, okay, that was nice. I'm going to pop outside for a little bit now and come back, maybe another day, maybe a week later and do the rest.
And see the other half.
But they stay with you, and that's
Yeah.
the thing about it. Like the ideas and the amount of thought that's gone into every single shot and all the characters and the ones that do win the Palme d'Or, really, they do sit with you. They are
And I
great
think
films.
They exemplify that festival feel of a film, of beautiful dramatic performances and beautiful cinematography and a sense of art about a film. It's not it doesn't have to be a commercial product. Festival films tend to be art.
Philosophically driven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If someone was a young director or writer or actor who wanted their film in Cannes, they aspired, what are the steps that you would encourage them to take to get to that stage?
Well, I think it should begin in the conception of your film and the concept. If you are aiming for something that you want to be entering into festivals, you kind of have to keep what we were talking about in mind, that festival films tend to be drama, they tend to be arty, they tend to be heavy dramatic performances from excellent cast. Speaking myself up there a bit, whoops. But no, I think you should consider that. Like, if your dream is to make a kung fu film comedy, you're probably not going to be entering it into a festival. So you'd want to consider that if that was your aim, what kind of film you're going to make.
I think going in with a clear vision of what you want to achieve is the first step. So I think learning, I mean, it sounds cliched, but learning your craft is really important. So, I mean, I say I went in gung-ho, but I had spent 3 years directing theatre, working with actors. And then when I wanted to work in film, I then started it was wonderful. I got employed at TVNZ on the night shift, and I was allowed by the people there to use the equipment at night, and that's how I learned to edit. And I would watch films, writing down the editing sequence of each scene, painstakingly taking a lot of time, research and development of what is it is a craft. So and you learn by doing. So find people, and there's plenty out there who are making good films. And what a piece of advice I was given, which funny enough really fits in with what this person said, was everyone wants to give advice. Advice is free. People will always give you advice. It might be patronizing at the time, but everyone is free with advice. So don't be afraid to ask, hey, would you mind telling me why you chose that lens? Hey, would you mind telling me what your favorite camera is? Hey, would you mind telling me what makes this why this scene works and this scene doesn't?
Or,
hey, I cut this. Would you mind having a look?
Or even, can I come to your set and sort of help out and watch how the set, like the day runs, if you're that unfamiliar and that beginner to film? Like, it's a very welcoming community that wants to teach each other and share.
Yeah. So it took me about a year and a half to put together my first short film, and because I did all this process, and then afterwards, in the post-production side of things, I then sat in on all the sound edit. I did all the Foley myself. I found industry professionals who would give me a day of their time, and then I'd go away and implement that thing, and it would take me a month to do like all the Foley, and I'd be running around after horses, because it was a Western. I'd be running around after horses with a little microphone and stuff like that, just to learn it. But as a result, the second short film we made Numb in probably about
a month.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I wrote it sometime earlier than that, but from production.
But you wrote that in a day.
I did, but I thought about it.
You did, but your story is you worked in script development for ages, and a cat ran script development workshops for years and years and years. So when you put pen to paper, it's a very considered.
It's considered and speedy from my experience working with and developing other people's scripts and studying writing at university and writing theatre and developing my own theatre scripts and things like that. So yeah, it took me a day, but it was a thought out process.
So I think my advice to a young filmmaker, after all of that, advice to a young filmmaker would be take time, learn, and don't be afraid to ask questions. And then when you've made something, show people.
Yes.
So now that you've been back a little while, what are the highlights of the festival for you? Are there one or two things that stand out as, wow, that happened?
I think probably getting there on the first day for me, and seeing the sheer size of the festival, the people there, the security measures, the public on the street trying to get in and asking for tickets, and being the person that actually has my little ticket and can get through the door. Like, I feel silly for it, but it's a moment in your career where you're like, hey, I am through the door.
There's a bit of that's the door. I just walked through it.
I just walked through that door.
The industry door. I just walked through it.
The door with capital T.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. I think for me, we rushed around on the first day, and I really would advise anyone who goes to do this. We went around to each of the pavilions in the market. So each country has its own pavilion. We rushed around and we introduced ourselves to each pavilion. We got their itinerary, their schedule for the next few days, and a lot of them have workshops and lectures and stuff from all people from all over the world, distributors from Fox, etc. And like really top game people will be speaking at these pavilions, and so we went around and got a huge list of what everyone was doing, what all the pavilions were doing, and then sat down and sorted that out. So I think the first few days will really stick in my mind because I learned so much by going to those
running around like crazy, learning from all these workshops and speeches from incredible people.
Yeah, just learnt so much in those first few days. But the one memory that will really stick in my head was we went to a screening on the beach of Kiss Me Deadly, which is a very silly noir film, which was a lot of fun. But they have beach screenings, so there's a big cinema set up with deck chairs facing it.
Showing old films from
Yeah.
prior years of Cannes, yeah.
Yeah, and just chilled out with a bottle of wine and did that. Yeah, in fact, we drank a lot, come to think of it,
Yeah.
on some of the days. Like we'd be like, okay, here are all our notes, because we'd go off to separate workshops and then sit in a cafe, order a bottle of wine, and then share the notes with each other and just be like, this is what I learned. And you're like, this is what I learned. That's
Yeah.
awesome. We are the film industry.
Now that you have had film or multiple films in Cannes, what's the next step? Where do you go from there?
More festivals. Is kind of the upshot of that. So there's kind of the A-lister festivals, of which Cannes is one. Although the short film corner of Cannes is not the official selection. So the main goal is to get into Cannes Film Festival's official selection.
The competition.
Which is 6 films are selected for that, and
The
you are up.
features?
No,
Shorts?
6 shorts are selected for that. For, I guess, the short film version of the Palme d'Or. I should have done my research before this.
Petit Palme d'Or.
The Petite Palme d'Or.
That's adorable.
I love it. That's we should have that.
We could make it. We
could
could just
make
make our own.
No one would know.
We got it from Iggy and Snoop.
Yeah, Snoop Dogg gave it to us.
So what's the next step for Numb? Where is that at? Did you manage to find any sort of business hookups?
The distribution side of Numb, we have sort of been in touch with a couple of people, but more out of interest because it's still very early on in its film life. So this was the first festival that it was in.
And then for the next sort of 12, 18 months, that's the time where it can be entered in all of the other festivals nationwide, like internationally rather.
So like Berlin, Toronto, Sundance, Venice, even though Mussolini's there. If you if you keep that in and not the other bit.
Yeah. It just seemed non sequitur.
Non sequitur. I just have a thing against Italy. I love Italy. Just want to put that out there.
I'll edit that out, Tom.
You monster.
Awesome. I mean, that was everything I'd written down. Was there any other things you wanted to share about your experience? Funny stories, anecdotes?
I think some of the funniest times of Cannes was we were so desperate to get the most out of this experience because we had actually fundraised a lot of money, or not a lot, enough money to get there and to eat. And so we sort of felt very beholden or obliged to really make the most out of the experience. And so we're running around like crazy people, but actually staying outside of Cannes and trying to get in there every day desperately. And the trains were all on strike.
See, that wouldn't have happened on Mussolini's watch.
So yeah, some days we sort of like get glammed up in our best, put on these beautiful gowns that I'd been sponsored from various New Zealand fashion designers to wear, and I was trying to take photos and do photos of the day on Instagram every day, and getting all dolled up and filming our blog post from bed for an entertainment website, and then try and get in for this busy day, and there's no train.
So it's like, thank you, France.
Thanks, France.
Thanks, France, for giving liberty to the people for the day. It was our day.
And they don't
That's
even
okay.
announce it. They sort of just don't show up. There's no like sign saying the trains are on strike. Here's an alternative means of transport. It's just like, oh, nah, can't go.
It's actually probably worth saying a big thank you to those who did help us head over there. We held sort of quite big fundraising shows and had Kat really organised a big push so that we both had the opportunity to go over there and learn so much that it's really worth saying a big thank you, particularly to our families who have been consistently supportive in our artistic way of life.
Just for like our whole lives.
Yeah, I really cannot thank our families enough.
Yeah.
So, how do you get a film into the Cannes Film Fest? Assuming you've made the film already, the hard part's already done. From there, the next step is going to cannescourtmetrage.com, and that's it. They'll say oui Ono, and then it's up to you to get your own ticket there. Hopefully, you'll get picked up by a distributor there and monetize all your hard work. Because heaven forbid you put the product you've spent all that time and effort on and give it away for free online like a chump. Thanks to Ainsley Calderwood, Kat Glass, and Luke Thornborough. Thanks to you for finding this podcast and for listening right through to the end. The opening theme music for this podcast is a derivative of The Little Hotel of Horrors by Decumentarium, licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 4.0. This podcast is a What a Cat production. Find What a Cat on the web at whatacat.co.nz. Inspired to make an artsy short film of your own? Cash burning a hole in your pocket and you're just waiting for the right creative talent to come along so you can fund their short film and support burgeoning auteurs? Well, you've come to the right place. If you're interested in doing some cool film stuff in Auckland, I'm always keen to collaborate. My email address is whatacatproductions@gmail.com. You can catch a new episode of What a Predicament every week in the same place that you found this episode, including, as of very recently, the Blueberry podcast directory. That's BLUBRRY, Blueberry, without the E's. Ugh. Speaking of blueberries, I think I see one floating here in the back of the sewerage truck I'm still stuck in. Ugh. It's got to be up there with the worst places you can find a blueberry. Man, if I don't get out of here soon, I think I... Oh, wait a minute. The driver's backing up. I guess we've reached our destination. Man, at this rate, I don't care what it is. I need to get out of here. We've stopped all right. Ugh, that's disgusting. He or she has dumped all the sewage into the ocean, directly out into some current that's dragging me further and further out to sea. Luckily, all my recording equipment still seems to be working. Huh. Oh, I can't fight it, I just gotta ride it out. Okay, so I've reached some kind of mass, but it ain't land or a whale, thank God. You know what this looks like? Have you heard of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch? The collection of floating plastic and debris collected in the Pacific Ocean that takes up about twice the area of the United States of America? Yep, well, I think that garbage patch just got like 5 foot 10 inches bigger. If you're in the area, could you swing by and give me a ride out of here? What a predicament.
Wonderful creative talent here in New Zealand, and really kind of the cream of the crop